Well, today I'm going to talk about the upcoming peace talks that finally have been restarted in the Middle East. After 4 months and 6 visits to the Middle East, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has finally got the two sides to sit down together. And of course, even if that is the case, that this does go through, don't think for a second that either party is genuine in their desire to have peace. Everyone, including the United States, is looking out for their own interest, and that's something that we're going to talk about throughout this video. And much of the information I'm going to be pulling from a recent Stratford report on the recent Middle East peace talks that they've given their analysis on. And we'll start with Mr. Netanyahu, and it states that Netanyahu has little interest in direct negotiations with the Palestinians. The Prime Minister's speech in or at Bar Ilan University in 2009 was the first time he indicated his support for a Palestinian state. And Netanyahu has continued to stand fast on key issues such as Jerusalem and the refugees' right of return. But through pressure from the United States and the European Union, Mr. Netanyahu has been basically forced to go ahead with negotiations. But he has a contingency plan to lessen the fallout that he will receive not only from his own party, but from Israel abroad. And the article goes on to say, while the prisoner release captured most of the media attention, the cabinet also, if you don't know what that means, over 100 prisoners were released to sweeten the pot for the Palestinian leader to come back and restart negotiations. And Mr. Netanyahu did receive a ton of fallout from that release. Going on, it says, while the prisoner release captured most of the media attention, the cabinet also approved a law July 28th requiring a national referendum if Israel were to relinquish any territory in a treaty, effectively shielding Mr. Netanyahu from direct blame and also subverting the legitimacy of Livni, an old political rival in negotiations. That would be Zippy Livni, who used to be a rival of Mr. Netanyahu's in the prime minister elections of the past. And here's something you need to know. It says, and while Netanyahu's credibility within his party will suffer for pushing forward the talks, a majority of the Knesset favors a peace deal, and the Labor Party has already gone on record as saying it would join the coalition if it meant pursuing negotiations. The Labor Party's stance eliminates some of the risk that the government would collapse should anti-negotiation parties such as Jewish Homes resign. Netanyahu will have to worry about elections in 4 years, but his position as prime minister is safe for now. Now moving on to the United States. The United States basically is trying to bring about an inexpensive way of showing that it still has clout in the Middle East, although its interests are elsewhere. And some of the things that it has done in order to do that, of course, it reconciled Turkey and Israel through an apology through the Israeli Prime Minister. It has upped the ante with Jordan by upping its aid to $1 billion annually. And as far as Egypt is concerned, it has taken on a quiet response toward the Egyptian coup, if you will, of Mr. Morsi, and have basically stayed out of the situation. Lastly, the United States has also kept a quiet hand in the Syrian war. But going on with the article, it says, despite opposition within his own party, Netanyahu cannot resist U.S. pressure. It was pressure from Washington that forced his hand in issuing an apology to Turkey in March, and the same pressure is pushing him to negotiate to the negotiating table now. The United States is the ultimate guarantor of Israel's national security and underwrites a portion of its national defense. With Iran's nuclear development program still casting a shadow on the region, that reality has never been more salient. And of course, the report just came out that by mid-2014, analysts are projecting that Iran again will have the ability to create a nuclear weapon. And this part of the article, I believe, is very important, I should say, and that is further, Netanyahu suffered a political embarrassment on June 30th when the European Union issued a directive that forbade members from funding or cooperating with entities operating in East Jerusalem, All of these factors underscore the political isolation Israel would have risked had it not consented to the prisoner release. And believe it or not, with the removal of Morsi in Egypt, that has stabilized, or at least given rise to the Egyptians' military to go into the Sinai and to shore up the Sinai and basically stabilize it. And going on with the article, it says, with its southern border stabilized, speaking of Egypt and the Sinai, and with Hezbollah firmly embroiled in the Syrian civil war, Israel is in a relatively comfortable situation. To be sure, there are still threats on its borders, but they are less severe than they have been in recent years. By entering negotiations, Israel has boosted its international legitimacy and demonstrated to the United States that it is a cooperative ally. Further, the Israeli government now possesses a measure of plausible deniability. If negotiations fail, Netanyahu will be able to point to the prisoner release as evidence of Israel's good intentions. Now to the Palestinian side. It says, unlike the Israelis, Abbas brings relatively little influence to bear on this round of diplomacy. At first, Abbas insisted on three preconditions: a return to the 1967 borders, a settlement freeze, and a prisoner release. Only the last precondition has been unequivocally met. Not only did it take Kerry 6 visits to get Abbas to agree to negotiations, but Kerry also reportedly threatened to remove U.S. aid to the Palestinian Authority if Abbas refused. The Arab League, another important Palestinian sponsor, has also pushed for the resumption of talks. For example, it endorsed the Arab Peace Initiative of 2002 at an April 17 news conference at the White House. Fatah itself has little to gain from negotiations. It is already considered weak, corrupt, and inefficient because of its failure to achieve Palestinian self-determination through diplomatic channels. The long-stalled reconciliation process between Fatah and Hamas further calls into question the potential efficacy of these Israeli-Palestinian consultations. Hamas's credibility still derives from its status as a resistance movement against Israel, and its interests are not aligned with those of Fatah, especially after Hamas lost its close political ally in Cairo. Hamas's absence from the talks and its criticism of Fatah further hollow the potential for any kind of comprehensive settlement which security can be meaningfully negotiated. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is more a symbol than an issue of geopolitical gravity. Historically, the conflict has been used by external powers for regional competition as much as it has been about the actual issue dividing Israelis and Palestinians, and the latest batch of talks are no different. While conditions are sufficient for negotiations, a host of political constraints combined with complex final status issues will prevent these talks from being anything more than a development of interim and incremental changes at best, and at worst a political show. And if you haven't heard, the Jerusalem Post is also reporting that the European Union is also playing a major role in these talks as well. So everyone's trying to get a foothold into this particular Middle East photo op, in which Stratford simply doesn't believe that it'll be anything more than just a political show. And certainly I believe that's probably the case as well, as long as the United States is at the helm. But the Bible does say in Daniel 9:27 that at some point in time that a man will rise up out of the European Union and who will do the impossible and bring peace to this region. It will be interesting to see how these negotiations do go. I do believe there will be some incremental type moves that will bring us closer to peace. I think once the 9 months have come and gone, I believe that probably the United States will wash their hands of it, or at least will step back and allow the European Union to take the lead role with the United States' blessing. But I do believe that before that takes place, that there will be a time when the Lord will rapture the church from this world, and that is when the man of sin will be revealed. And what seemed to be impossible will finally come to pass and will be possible. But these talks are the heart of Bible prophecy. If you're looking at Syria, what's going on in Syria, if you're looking at what's going on in Egypt, those are indirect side shows that really will not come to light until the tribulation period. At least that's what I believe. I know a lot of people are looking at Egypt and looking at Syria and other places to try to look for some barometer that the Lord is going to come back. But the bottom line is that the barometer is in Israel and will surround what's going on in these peace talks. That's why for years many have tried to say that, look at Egypt and look at Syria, and that is showing that the Lord is coming soon. Well, the bottom line is that Israel and the peace talks is the barometer for when the Lord will come back. And as we've seen, literally years have passed by and nothing has taken place and all. That's because people are looking in the wrong place. Keep your eyes on what's going on in Israel and in Jerusalem, and you'll know the season that you're living in. And if you have not prepared for that day when the Lord will come back, and even more so when you die, your time is running out. I would encourage each and everyone who is listening that does not know Jesus as Savior to make that decision today. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.